777 coming at you on this moon day morning. We are going to continue the reading of the Matriarch to Patriarch, the Black Woman God, Penelope Stewart. It's been a while. Support our organization, Mayat's Temple of Healing and Unconditional Love. How's everybody been making it through this full moon in Leo? It's been a lot of different energies going on. You need to look at like how does what house your moon falls in and what sign it falls in, because there's some aspects going on with also like Pluto and the moon and even Saturn. Nobody talks about how this is the Aquarius age and how it's ruled by Saturn. So I'm gonna get some more into that, another time, because I'm still doing my research and my studies about that. But we gonna get into this. Yes, support Maya Simple Healing and Unconditional Love. We are expanding, and we have some definitely upcoming events reaching out into the community. But I'm gonna get right into this, cause I got some other things to do that is in a timely manner. So where I stopped off was right here where it said the Jewish people talking about how Abraham, what's that? Something is beeping. Talking about how Abraham, I don't know what that is. Hold on one second. Something is beeping. It's an alarm. Somebody calling. Somebody calling the phone. Turn it off. Talking about how Abraham, wife Sarah, was a Sybil, and she was the one when he went into that place. It was the king wasn't about Sarah's beauty. It was about because he knew she was one of the ancestral mothers. If this story is true, because they've taken a lot of stories in the Bible from the ancient stories and put them into the Bible, and they changed the names, and even like the what is it, the Afram people, they changed that to what is it? It's in here. They changed the names and stuff to come, to make the story manipulate it how they want to manipulate it for political and military use. Yeah, so we stopped off right here where it says Sarah was doing something metaphysical, not just playing, as the Bible mentioned. And the king apologized to Abraham because he was afraid of the manifestation of God in Sarah. The king was aware of the spiritual power of the Sibyl obtained in those times. Our Aboriginal mothers had the power to bless or curse a person at will. Jewish people did not originate from Europeans in Ur of the Chaldeans, because people of the Mesopotamia was not European. Specifically, the Jewish people did not originate from English people. Okay, and this is the book From Matriarch to Patriarch, Penelope Stewart. This is a book that is slept on. They didn't even want her to write it, but there are other books that's in deeper, go deeper into this stuff about how everything, was a matriarch. Okay, so it is evidence from Africa confirming the African heritage of the Jewish people, the African origin. Now we talking about the Jews, not the ones that been converted. We talking the ones that's converted, which are the European. They was converted into. I'm talking about those the Ethiopians. They were the ones that broke away from the system and went behind Jehovah and everything. And those were the same ones that was involved in the establishing too. That they wasn't the only ones that they was involved in the establishing of the patriarch. Okay. So where are we? African heritage of the Jewish people. The African origin and authors of the doctrines of the Bible, and therefore the African origin of Christianity that this book intends to provide. Yeah, because it's a Christianity that originated out of Ethiopia, the same place where the original Jews come from. Because it's a religion. It's actually a religion like the Jewish religion, the Muslim religion, Christianity, Hindu, and all that. The witnesses, those are all religions now. Let's get that clear. The African origin of Christianity that this book intends to provide. The Jewish patriarchs went to ancient Egypt carrying their Akan tribal names. This shows the Jews were Akan before they went to Egypt. The language and culture of the Akan people were from their mother tribal spiritual practices that Ephraim people took into Exodus. The first apostasy against the divine ancestral mother was in Egypt. The priests of the Ammon, the Levites, were jealous of the Sibyl priestess, took over the temple at Thebes. The priests of Ammon proceeded to build dynasties over those temples, over the temples, the mother temples and stuff. They controlled many of the priestesses that could not escape, forcing them to perform spiritual services. So they took control of the priestesses, the women, forced it said to perform spiritual service. The story of Noah and his three sons. Okay, the story of Noah and his three sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, is the deceiving beginning of Jewish patriarch history. This story is an example of how patriarch Jews and Roman papal authorities were competing enemies. So the Jews and the Romans were authorities were competing enemies. Yet they all agreed that the African divine matriarch authority had to be destroyed. Even though they was enemies, they all came together to suppress the mother goddess and her daughters. See, they all agreed that the African divine matriarch authority had to be destroyed. This apparent attempt to divide African tribes by race or a scientific explanation for various races. Okay, so it used to then be divided by race. It was about a tribe or the mother. Like we see today, ancient civilizations identified people according to their nation or tribe. The truth is, Ham, Shem, and Japheth is the patriarch's way of explaining a genetic mutation or intermingling taking place within the indigenous Aboriginal tribes. Tan said it was a genetic, it's saying that Ham, Shem, and Japheth is the patriarch's way of explaining a genetic mutation or intermingling taking place within the indigenous Aboriginal tribes, meaning the black, which we didn't call ourselves black, but we, called ourselves, they called us people of color and carbon colored people. The terms Hamitic and Semitic are complicated to understand. Ham is said to be the father of the dark races, and Shem is supposedly the father of the Indian or Asiatic races. Japhet is alleged to be the father of the white races. However, this can't be true. Scientific evidence has discovered first humans in Africa were dark-skinned people. The only logical explanation is the albino mutation began in the Japhetic tribes. It is black skin that changes to all skin colors we have in the world. However, no mixture of human can produce black skin color except two black people. As a result, it is easy for black people to turn white as the Jewish people. I don't agree with this, but this is what she said. As the Jewish people have done, a lot of them was indoctrinated. Than it is for white people, but she right, it is for white people to turn black. Major mutation or changes took place among the descendants of Japhet. In other words, they were black at one time, but their skin changed white. Well, we know that those people was indoctrinated into that religion. Scientists and anthropologists have found different kinds of mutations in certain parts of the world. A physical mutation is now we do know she right, the albinos. That is right. A physical mutation is a sudden change or variation. The offspring different from its parent in some outstanding characteristic. There is a major change in genes and chromosomes. Now I'm gonna say they when they whitewashed when they entered into and took over and colonized, they whitewashed it and had biracial babies, and they say they call them Moors or whatever, but or they used to say mulatto, which that's not a term that is proper to use anymore, but that's what they used to use, and they didn't have that word, so they used more a lot of times. So they would grape the women. I can't say the other word. They would grape the women, or or marry them. And once during that patriarchal time, once they married those men, they lost their land because this land belonged to. She gonna get into it. And I'm gonna get into it deeper. The land belonged to the Big Mama and her daughters. But when they married those French, like even the Creole people down in New Orleans and stuff, those properties belonged to even in all over the United States back then. When they married the men had rights to the land. The women lost their land when they married those men, those European men like the French and the British or whatever, and the Spanish men. The land, that's how they took the lands. The system had to help them do that, but it actually they did that. That's how they lost the land. They also shipped the people from here to other places so they couldn't claim rights to the land. I mean, it didn't happen like they said, but anyway. So, she was saying the physical mutation is a sudden change in variation, the offspring different from its parents in some outstanding characteristics. There's a major change in genes and chromosomes. Okay, albinism is a rare genetically inherited condition passed on by both parents, resulting in a reduction in pigmentation in hair, skin, and nails. The body tribe of Pakistan produced albinos identical to the original Caucasians. Some of these albinos migrated to India. It is not such a thing as Ham, Shem, Japhet race. It is only one race that all humans evolved from, and that is from the African indigenous race. Elijah, she's getting ready to get deep now. Now this is what what's his name be talking about, but this tells it in detail. Elijah Muhammad was a Muslim leader that started all nations. He stated that all nations are identified in African people. Through genetics, scientists prove this to be true. The truth, all races came from the Hamitic or African race or Semite, is nothing more than a biracial race we see today among interracial couples. Oh, okay. So she said the truth, all races came from the Hamitic or African race. She saying a Semite is nothing more than a biracial race we see today among interracial couples. Whether in Mesopotamia, Phoenicia, or Arabia, the Semite, insofar as he is discernible objectively, appears as the product of a Negro-white mixture. It is also possible that the whites crossbred with the Negroes in that area of Western Asia, humans distinguished by certain traditional features. The Jewish people claim they had a personal relationship with God, yet in the Bible we read God does not speak to them directly. The true reason for this insertion is that the feminine deity was angry with these people. Oh, it takes a trained Egyptian priestess or priest like Moses to meet with this God because he was trained in the spiritual arts of his ancestral mothers. He most likely was claimed to be a priest of Ammon. Truthfully, Moses was a woman who was a prophetess, priestess, Sybil. The Jews changed the story and made her a man to set up their religion. Many of these priests or pharaohs received their royalty through their mothers. This was the first establishment of patriarch. The Jewish people carefully inserted, the marrying of the patriarchs to Egyptian, Acon, indigenous matriarch tribal women. This insertion gives clues of how the Jewish people came to adopt an African religion as their own, copied from their ancestral mother. Abraham married Hagar, who gave birth to Ishmael. Jewish scholars wrote their history around the Acon matriarchs, tribal scribes' early history. The Old Testament is the story of the Jewish people weaved around religion. The maidservant Hagar, whom Abraham impregnated, was an ancient Egyptian, and she got her knowledge of religion and God from her home in ancient Egypt. According to Archbishop Stallings, biblical scholars universally agree that these women, Tamar, this is these women in the Bible, they agree. They said, according to Archbishop Stallings, biblical scholars universally agree that these women, Tamar, Rahab, and Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah, were all black women. This is also a reference in the book. This book now, The Destruction of Black Civilization. It's referenced in this book, the destruction of black civilization, that all these women, Tamar, Rahab, and Bathsheba, which was the wife of Uriah, you know, the lady that David saw her bathing and she was so beautiful, they were all black women. And there's also a reference in the book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, that black women were being abducted. However, the book does not go into details of why these women were being taken against their will. If these women were black, that would have been the racial, spiritual heritage of the rest of the people for 42 generations of Jesus, which we know that that was not that man's. It was a few of Yahshua's. That wasn't the name. These were the women that belonged to a powerful now matriarchal structure. It was important to insert the marrying of these women within the Bible to show proof of their royal bloodline. In truth, the author was very aware that royalty blood came from the Sibyl prophetess ancestral mothers. In the Old Testament, there is the book of Amos, pronounced, it's really pronounced Amo, but they changed the words around to play, you know, they know what they changed the words around. It's the book of Amos, but it's pronounced Amo. The Amo was and still is an indigenous Akan name. Amo was a royal name in the New Kingdom of ancient Egypt. The book of Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, Akan name is book of Asus. So it's really, Isaiah is really pronounced Isis. And it sounds like what? ISIS. And what does Israel have in it? Is Israel, if you look at the word, it has Isis, Ra, and El, meaning Elohim. So Isaiah is really, Achan name is book is pronounced Asus. The Old Testament documents have most of the names simply transposed by adding a suffix IAH, just as the scholars of the Bible added ites, like Calamites or Shalamites, ites, ITES, in nearly every tribal group in the Bible. The indigenous Akan names Asa, which is what they took and changed it to Isaiah, was transposed to Isaiah in the Greek Bible, then transported into Western European tongues as Isaiah. The Jewish people first had to claim this God as their God for them to pass him on to the Greeks successfully. However, evidence in the biblical narrative do not support the claim that this God was the God of the Jewish/Levites. This clearly explains how patriarchs share the same story. Many patriarchs sold the Ophites, prophetess, matriarch stories as their own and created religion. I'm going to read that again. Okay? So we reading that the book of Isaiah was really pronounced Asa. Then it was transposed to Isaiah, and then the Greek Bible transported it into Western European tongue as Isaiah. The Jewish people first had to claim this God as their God for them to pass him on to the Greeks successfully. However, evidence in the biblical narrative do not support the claim that this God was the God of the Jewish slash Levites, the Levitican tribe. This clearly explains how patriarchs share the same story. Many patriarchs sold them. They took those women, the ancestral mothers, Mama, Big Mama and them, they took the Ophites, the prophetess, matriarch stories as their own and created their religion. The Ephraim people created of the Bible became a catalyst and a popular religion text among many nations. However, many are not aware that many of the prophecies, laws, and poems came directly from the mouths and writings of our ancestral mothers, prophetess known as Sibyls, Bible, Sybil. So when you read, that's what I spiritually picked this up years ago. Reading the book Isaiah, I felt that was the Big Mama words and the ancestral mothers and Lamentations. Those are all our ancestral mothers' writings that were taken by the patriarch and used as their own, plagiarized and stuff. But a lot of that stuff they only changed up the name to say it was a man. That's all. But those poems are written from the ancestral mothers and the Big Mama, the great mother. Okay. However, many are not aware that many other prophecies, laws, and poems came directly from the mouths and writings of our ancestral mother prophetesses known as Sybil. It was the 2nd century when the Bible became popular throughout Europe. And the Ephraim Levites, Jews, took credit for the creation of the Bible. So it's saying that the Levites, the Ephraim people, the Jews, took credit for the creation of the Bible. The patriarchal Hebrews of Ephraim people, holy laws and canon do not predate the prophecies of these Sybil ancestral mothers. The Ephraim people broke away from their ancestral mothers who were the originators. The Ephraim people joined the historical fad and created a patriarchal religion. They totally did away with their female goddess and elevated her minor court consort, Jehovah, in her place. I'll read it again. The Ephraim people joined the historical fad and created a patriarchal religion. They totally did away with their female goddess, which was Mama. We call her Mama Wada, Isis. She has different names, Diana, even Kali Ma. That's what the Hindus took it as. And they elevate her minor consort, which was Jehovah, in her place. Keep in mind, all patriarchs were competing for dominance in the world. Excuse me. The Bible introduces Western minds to intellectual, spiritual, cultural concepts, and so inspired philosophy and theology. The history of the Bible contained triggered Western minds to link their identity to the Bible. The Bible introduced Europeans. Listen, okay, now you might didn't understand that. Listen, the Bible introduced Europeans to a quality of intelligence. It was the foundation of the new civilization they created for themselves. Europeans did not have a religion catalyst like the Bible. Listen, the Bible introduced Europeans to a quality of intelligence. It was the foundation of the new civilization they created for themselves. Europeans did not have a religion catalyst like the Bible. The Bible was introduced during the time ancient Egyptian mystery were a political and religious threat to who? Rome. I'm going to read it again. The Bible was introduced during the time the ancient Egyptian mysteries were a political and religious threat to Rome, the Roman Empire. Many intellectuals were leaving Roman traditional beliefs and practices and adopting Egyptian Akan tribal monarch religious practices. So they were actually going back to the mother, and that was a threat to Rome because she getting ready to say something soon about how they never really wanted to look up to a woman goddess or that they won't that that the Roman, they ain't about that. Okay. So they was a threat. The matriarch was a threat to the Roman Empire. Roman political leaders and priests refused to give up the spiritual practices of ancient Egypt. So some of they Roman political leaders and priests refused to give up the spiritual practice of ancient Egypt. This fascination resulted in civil disputes and an attack on the women, the matriarchs. So because a lot of they people wouldn't, them people went, they people went to the woman god, the mother goddess, the ancestral mother's ways of honoring Mama Water and the feminine deities. So this caused resulted in civil disputes and an attack on the matriarchs and ancient Egyptian mystery practices. Religious institutions function as a political power, like they do today. Religious institutions function as a political power, and that practice continues. See? Rome needed a religion that didn't have any ancient Egyptian origins. The Afro people helped the European people meet those needs. I'm going to read it again. The Afro people helped the European people meet those needs. Okay, we get ready to get into it now. The Ephraim/Levites. Now remember that? You remember the Levitican tribe, the priests? The Ephraim/Levites, fanatical patriarchs, created a story of being victims of Egyptians. Remember that? Remember that? Remember that? The Ephraim Levites, fanatical patriarchs, created a story of being victims of the Egyptians. Remember in the Bible how they always somehow don't go back Egypt, always badmouth the Egypt. This is a lot. This is a lot. This story was a lie. The truth is they oppressed and raped their ancestral mothers, copied her spiritual practices, and abducted many of the women and sibyls, forced them to marry them. However, this story was convenient for the Europeans during that time. They were waging war against ancient Egyptian practices. When Romans were ensuring their powers over the Akan indigenous African people, Christianity was being born. I'm going to read that again. When Romans were ensuring their powers over the Akan indigenous African people, Christianity was being born. The Jews wasted no time in seizing, plagiarizing, demolishing the civil prophecies. The women, what the women wrote, inserting counterfeits to meet their own political religious agenda. The Jews flooded society with propaganda of bogus doctrines, adding more confusion. Levitical Jews created doctrines based on the waiting of their God, Jehovah, to return, and the Christians created their doctrine based on waiting on the second coming of their God, Christ. Okay, I'm going to read it again. The Jews flooded society. Now, this is when they were waging war on the ancestral mothers, on the matriarch. That's that war with Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. The Jews wasted no time in seizing, plagiarizing, demolishing the Sybil prophecies, inserting counterfeits to meet their own political religious agenda. When I say Sybil, I'm talking about the ancestral mothers, the priestesses and the prophetesses and stuff. So the Jews flooded society with propaganda of bogus doctrines, adding more confusion. Levitical, remember that name, the Levitical Jews created doctrines based on the waiting of their God, Jehovah, to return, and the Christians create their doctrine based on waiting on the second coming of their God, Christ. Boy. European patriarchs, that's what we're reading about now. Okay, y'all know about this man here now. Y'all know who he was. Constantine, a Christian and murderer of his own family, perfected the forgery of making African deities European. So he whitewashed them. He took the African deities and whitewashed them to be European deities. After he succeeded in this task, Constantine declared Christianity, the official religion of the Roman Empire, closed the shrines of Astarte, denounced African gods as pagans, denied many worshippers citizenship, and later, under Emperor Theodosius, 7,000 black worshippers of mommy goddess followers were killed. Under Emperor Theodosius, 7,000 black worshippers of mommy goddess followers were killed. Constantine wanted to combine so-called paganism with Christianity. That's where we get all this mixture, and it's just confusing with the way they call it pagan worship and demonize it. But then if you go through the Bible and through the days of the week and stuff, you see all the Sunday, moon day, all this stuff is connected to the mother goddess in the ancient spirituality system. So okay, Constantine wanted to combine the so-called paganism with Christianity. At one point, he tolerated the African matriarch spiritual practices. Constantine declared himself black, claimed direct maternal lineage from the Ethiopian queen, of Helen, Queen of Tar. That's what originally it was pronounced, but it's pronounced the Queen of Troy. Did y'all know that the Ethiopian Queen of Troy was an Ethiopian black lady? It's the Queen of. They changed the name. It was Queen of Tar, but it's really the Queen of Troy. My guess, he felt this gave him power to outlaw forms of divination, ancestral sacrifices, and festive ceremonies. He was well aware these functions could only be performed through the lineage of African priestess, which were Sibyls, Pythoness, and Pythias. That means these were the holy bloodline of women. He had to claim that he was of that bloodline. He was of the bloodline of the Ethiopian Queen of Helen of Troy to do this. He had to. He had wouldn't see if they didn't have those women, if they didn't have that bloodline and them children and stuff. That's why they was raping those women and abducting them and marrying them, so that they could claim the rights to the land a lot of times in these countries, because the land belonged to the women and the big mama. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to offend nobody, and I'm not trying to come off as I'm not a feminist. I'm definitely not no feminist, and I'm not trying to divide the sexes or whatever, but I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this so we can figure out what's going on so we can fix it. We have to save ourselves. We are our own savior. The Christ consciousness is within us, and that's what they took when Constantine and them met at the Council of Nicaea. The sages and the masters was trying to tell him, don't insert this stuff into the Bible to tell the people the truth, but they inserted the stuff as we supposed to be waiting for a savior, instead of saying that we should be saving ourselves, and it's all within. So Constantine's nephew Julian tried to keep the promise of restoring many of the black Diana goddesses. Yeah, they used to call Isis Diana too. It was different names. He tried, his nephew, Constantine's nephew, tried to keep restoring many of the black Diana goddess temples, but didn't live long enough to keep his promise. I wonder, did his uncle get rid of him? Although the Catholic clergy still bow down to a black Virgin Mary. I'm going to read it again. Although the Catholic clergy still bow down to a black Virgin Mary, when Christianity became the imperial religion under Constantine, Jesus was the sacred entity above all humans. The Catholic Church became the enforcer of this lie. So the Catholic Church, like we've been saying, they the ones that created this Christianity that's over here in the Western world, and they enforced this lie. That's what it said. It just said they still bow down to the black Virgin Mary, but when Christianity became the imperial religion under Constantine, Jesus was the sacred entity above all humans. The Catholic Church became the enforcer of this lie. The Coptics predates. Now this is the Coptics. That's the Ethiopian Christian version of Christianity. It's very close to the African spirituality system. Coptics, remember that name. predates the Coptics, predates Western Christianity. It's older than this Christianity over here, which follows a different theology from the New Testament. Uh-oh. I'm gonna read that again. The the Coptics predates Western Christianity, which follows a different theology from the New Testament. Paulinian Christianity, meaning the scriptures of Paul or whatever. They don't follow that. They say this is what this is saying. The Paulinian Christianity was invented by the Roman Church. Yeah, the Paulinian Christianity was invented by the Roman Church. They were in competition with these more ancient forms of African spirituality practices and were classified as heretics. Many priests, bishops argued that no one would believe this story of Jesus since it was allegorical, meaning that it really was a story of the sun and the rising, and it was an astrology story, allegorical, right? Known in many pagan world cultures. It was an allegorical story. The Egyptian gods Isis, Osiris, and Horus is linked to the creation of Christianity. That's what I mean. We've been telling people this for a while. So how is it that that stuff is evil when the Egyptian gods Isis, Osiris, and Horus is linked to the creation of Christianity? Many bishops were adept they knew about the ancient mystery school and were familiar with Egyptian gods. This made up character Jesus crucifixion is a symbolism of Christians eliminating all ties with ancient Egyptian Akan indigenous people. I'm going to read that again. This made up character Jesus crucifixion is a symbolism of Christians eliminating all ties with ancient Egyptian Akan indigenous people. The generation of Christians and politicians were racists were implementing a more supremacist doctrine. The original Aboriginal patriarchs were not aware of this future race war. The cult of Jesus founded on a convincing story about God being born on earth to teach humans right from wrong. This was a popular movement and gained momentum through the empire. The Levites, Jews, Moors, the Levites, she gonna talk about the Moors, where they came. She now in Hidden Colors. He don't talk that. You notice the men don't get some of them. Now some of them do. It's one guy that really he kind of go. There's a few guys that do go. I take that back. It is some, but it ain't many, child. It's not many. This was a popular movement and gained momentum through the empire. The Levite Jews, Moors, were selling the ancient knowledge of our ancestral mothers. The ancient knowledge produced many religions you see in the world today. The Sibyls prophesied. Now this is a jewel here. The Sibyls, meaning the ancestral mothers, prophesied of the day it would all end in a state of bondage, mentally, physically, and economically. That's where we at now. They prophesied. The Sibyls prophesied of the day it would all end in a state of bondage, mentally, physically, and economically. That insane. Okay, so now it's about the Egyptian patriarchs. The powerful priest of Ammon. Ammon in clans of Horus. Okay, these were the clans of Horus. Were the first to assault the matriarchal system. So the powerful priest of Ammon in is Khnum is Khnum. Clans of Horus were the first to assault the matriarchal system. Ammon priests are origins of the Ephraim Levites. They began changing and violating the holy temples of the matriarchs, starting at Thebes. The priests took control of the sacred order of the matriarchs and began renaming many of their sun temples in Egypt. These priests totally removed mommy goddess worship as the original head pathogen spiritual practices and inserted their own. These priests, the Levite, the Ephraim Levites, these priests totally removed mommy goddess worship as the original head pantheon spiritual practices and inserted their own. The original wars, the original wars of the Titans and Giants, in truth, were the internal political and celestial wars between African priests of Amun and the Mami Sybils. Oh my God. The original wars, I'm going to read it one more time. The original wars of the Titans and Giants, in truth, were the internal, political, and celestial. That means it was politics and then celestial wars between African priests of Amun and the Mami Sybils. The new gods replaced the ancient gods. This is how patriarch gods were born, depicting sun deities giving birth to goddesses. The new gods replaced the ancient gods. This is how patriarch gods were born, depicting sun deities giving birth to goddesses. Wow, that's deep. New creation stories were created implying these gods being created from heads, thighs, ribs, slava, or ejaculation. The Divine Mother was totally removed as the origin of the patriarch gods. This was a challenge since language didn't have pronouns to address men such as Mr. or Mrs. or Miss or him or her or Lord. Many matriarchs committed suicide. Many matriarchs deleted themselves. They couldn't handle it. They took their own life. They are strongly opposed this change. So they took their lives. The most famous gods were Osiris, Isis, and Horus. The principal gods were worshipped in a triad. One, the most popular image of the Divine Mother are Horus, the sun god, Osiris, featured with the goddess Isis, who gave birth to the solar gods. Isis or Pythoness, that's what she was called too. Isis or Pythoness is the oldest name or title, the most ancient god to be worshipped in ancient Egypt. I'm going to read it again. Okay. The most famous god was Osiris, Isis, and Horus. The principal god was worshipped in a triad. One of the most popular images of divine mothers are Horus, the sun god, Osiris, featured with the goddess Isis, who gave birth to the solar gods. Isis or Pythonesis is the oldest name or title, the most ancient god to be worshipped in ancient Egypt. As Mami, these are the different names. Mami, Utai, Self, Creator, who reigned alone in Egypt. Mythology, she is Sasuni, Nut, Netta, Ranu, beneath the celestial waters where 8 gods were born in the sites of the first serpents. That's why I say they taught us that the serpents was all the devil and stuff. Okay? It says, she is Sasuni, Nu, Netta, Reni, beneath the celestial waters where 8 gods were born in the signs of the fish, serpents, and she had no mate or virgin, meaning unmarried mother. It says she had no mate or virgin, meaning unmarried mother. Mama is derived from ma or mama, meaning truth or wisdom. Utah, meaning water. Wata, watoa, wat. Mermaid, symbolizing triple energy, very common in the ancient world, and it has come down to our day. Egypt patriarch system was born under Menes, campaigning for control of the ancient mother empires across. Oh my God, that's what all them wars was about. We thinking them people, Egypt patriarch system was born under Menes, campaigning for control of the ancient mother empires across Asia Minor, Libya, Troy, and Italy. During the reign of patriarchs, pharaohs must have divine blood through high priestess Sybil clans or marry a Sybil. Pharaohs had to be of the ancestral mothers, high priestesses, Sybil's, or they had to marry one. These male overseers had control over the sibyls, their prophecies, and healing gifts. Many sibyls would express their distress in poems or songs. For example, one sibyl created an allegorical song to remind society the kingships are legitimized through the blood of the African mother. The symbols, divine prophecies, spiritual gifts were imitated by other groups. Levitical black Hebrews, there are more names keep coming up. Moors, Dorian Greeks, Assyrians, Persians, and white Turks. Finally, centuries later, the Romans, who were jealous of her influence over the world. So they saying the Romans always been jealous of the ancestral mothers and her daughters, and that Delphic symbol image has been whitewashed. So the Delphic symbol image has been whitewashed. Stolen influence. Okay, we got to get into it. In 380 AD, Roman Emperor Theodosius proclaimed that the Catholic Christianity was to be the permanent religion of ancient Egypt. The history of symbols has been hidden and disguised in Western religion and history. The Greeks and Romans also copied the prophecies from Sybil prophetess religion doctrines, philosophies, and architecture designs, and transformed them into their own culture. When Asians, Greeks, and Romans invaded Egypt, when Asians, Greeks, and Romans invaded Egypt, the Egyptian god name and color was changed to please the invading culture. In 319 AD, the last Egyptian priest was murdered. But that did not prevent scholars from being intrigued by ancient Egyptian knowledge and wisdom. In the 4th century, the church admitted to creating the New Testament. I'm going to read that again. In the 4th century, the church admitted to creating the New Testament. Egypt was the holy land of the ancient world, and the mysteries and more ancient than the holy Catholic religion. The black people fill Rome with envy. This is why other ancient religions of the black people are despised, because they are all offsprings of the African mysteries, which have never been clearly understood by Europeans. Hypatia was a woman scholar and was a victim of the patriarch movement. She was wise and understanding. She was also considered a pagan. She was killed by Christian fanatics. During the 5th century, Haropalo acknowledges ancient Egyptian matriarchs' origins of all religion. This was a threat to the church. I'm going to read it again. During the 5th century, Haropalo acknowledges ancient Egyptian matriarch origins of all religion. This was a threat to the church. Haropalo inspired other scholars to research ancient Egypt. The Catholic Church and its revisionist writers has always monopolized on the African priestess and led the destruction of their mystery temples, schools, and libraries. Wow, I gotta read that again. The Catholic Church and its revisionist writers has always monopolized on the African priestess and led the destruction of their mystery temples, schools, and libraries. Sambetha is claimed by the Roman Catholic to be the first prophetess. She was the daughter of a Chaldean historian named Barroso. The rites of the Catholic Church were introduced. Now we done heard this now before. The rites of the Catholic Church was introduced by a black king named Numa Pomelius, who created the dress attire of Franciscan monks, are exact replicas of black male priests of Isis. Ain't that something? I'm going to read it again. I'm going to read it. I tell you. The rites of the Catholic Church were introduced by a black king named Numa Pomelius, who created the dress attire of Franciscan monks, are exact replicas of black male priests of Isis. The church forced religion on its citizens and forced with the Crusaders. And I say missionaries, mercenaries. Missionaries, okay. Okay, they forced religion on its citizens and forced with the Crusaders, Inquisition, and witch hunting. You remember the witch trials and what did it call when they came over here to the indigenous people in America? The doctrine of discovery, honey. The doctrine of discovery. Okay, all right. Inquisition, witch hunting, and hunting at the stake. The catacombs are the result of systematic tortures of the Catholic murders and tortures of the Catholic Church to its so-called pagan citizens. Priesthoods, dictatorship, medieval Catholic Church, Islamic Empire, and Chinese Confucian kept a strong grip on power by armed force and mental conditioning. The majority, I'm gonna read that again. Um, the church forced religion on its citizens and forced with the Crusaders, Inquisitions, and witch hunting, and burning at the stake. The catacombs are the result of systematic murders and tortures of the Catholic Church to its so-called pagan citizens. If they was okay, that's why they spent thousands of years now. The medieval Catholic Church, Islamic Empire, and Chinese Confucius kept a strong grip on power, and they say they spent I feel this stuff. Whew. Islamic Empire and Chinese Confucianism kept a strong grip on power by armed force and mental condition. The majority of Europe, Asia, and Asia spent thousands of years in religious oppression. Oh my God. Mm. Thousands of years. So that's why our grandparents, our people didn't know. The Roman government felt it was imperative to abolish the mysteries of the matriarchs that control religious minds in the ancient world. I guess that was the Dark Ages when they were destroying and burning everything down. All of Mommy Water and her daughters, anything that reminded them of them. The new religion replaced the mysteries of the matriarchs. It was equally powerful and universal, and everything possible was done to promote it. To promote his interest. Everything was done. All of the patriarchs was in agreement with that. They didn't like each other and they were warned, but they was promoting this they was promoting these, false religions. The Renaissance scholars began to recognize, it's always somebody that. The Renaissance scholars began to recognize that the Jews, the Afro people, were not the originators of the Bible, but the ancient Egyptians. The plagiarism of Egyptian ancestral mothers' ideas, concepts, and religious doctrines were a common practice among the Renaissance scholars. Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, and others all learned from the Egyptian ancestral mothers' mysteries. There were Isis temples that were credited to the Greeks, but those architecture predate both Roman and Greek invasion. It was the Greeks that found African ritual and spiritual phenomena extraordinary later. The Catholic Church coined them miracles. So it was the Greek that found African ritual and spiritual phenomena extraordinary. Then later on, the Catholic Church coined them miracles. Ariphile, a Sibyl prophetess, foretold the Greek invasion and told the Greek poet Homer that he would write a fiction book based on her writings once the Greeks became established in ancient Troy. Aristotle died in 322 BC, not many years after he had been aided by Alexander the Great to secure the largest quantity of scientific books from the royal libraries and temples of Egypt. In spite, however, of such great intellectual treasure, the death of Aristotle marked the death of philosophy among the Greeks, who did not seem to possess the natural ability to advance these sciences. Consequently, history informs us that the Greeks were forced to make a study of ethics, which they also borrowed from the Egyptians. Dorian Greeks, Celts, and Romans worship black goddesses, Melania. Black Celts and Romans worship the Melania. It says black one, black Demeter, or Ceres. When their rules was spread, when their rulership or rule was spread to rural white areas in Europe, when Greeks finally took notice to the African matriarchs' customs, they called the Sibyl priestesses prophetesses, oracles, or Amphe, meaning god of light or woman with familiar spirit. During the invasion, the Greeks killed the serpent. Uh-oh, here you go. Oh, during the invasion, this is interesting. During the invasion, the Greeks killed the serpent worshippers of Mami, calling it heathenism. Greek mythology has tales of the destruction of the serpent or serpent races later recognized as a prophecy told by a prophetess Sibyl. The entire culture, religion, economic, political system of Greeks came from the black matriarchs who fled the patriarchal takeover. Aristotle made a library of his own with plundered books while his school occupied the building and used it as a research center. Finally, Justinian, the Roman emperor, abolished the temples and schools of philosophy in an attempt from the Greeks to claim ancient Egypt mysteries as their own. The Catholic Church organization and religious attire is linked to ancient Egypt. The clothes the Catholic Church wear and their whole thing, they copied it from ancient Egypt. The Pope derived from ancient Akon travel practice that was present in Egypt. Pope Alexander VI claimed he descended from the Egyptian god Osoro, the Greek name Osiris. The Pope was trying to desperately claim some sort of divinity, but this was not true. The truth is the Akon people still worship Osiris or Osoro and Asase or Isis. They still worship him. They still do it today. The design of organization of the Catholic Church was based upon ancient Egyptian heres, Egypt was based upon ancient Egyptian heresy of kingship, hierarchy of kingship that was taken from African matriarchs. Wow, ancient Egyptian hierarchy of kingship that was taken from African matriarchs. The name Pope and most of their cultural practices of installing a new Pope were well derived from ancient Akon practices of kingship in ancient Egypt. For example, the Pope was derived from the Akon word Papa, a venerable name for an elderly Akon male. They copied everything from them African mystery, that Egyptian mysticism, and Egypt is in Africa, but they want to say the Middle East. Oh, this is deep. This is gonna tell you all about the Islam matriarch roots. It was pre-Mohammedan. Excuse me, y'all. I'll be right back. I gotta go get something to drink real quick. I'll be back. My throat is getting dry. I'm coming right back. Coming right back. Coming right back. I have to get something to drink. Should have had some over here, but I didn't. Oh well. I'm back. I should have had it over here already, but okay. I'm back. I'm back. Okay, so now we are going to read about the Islamic, how the Muslim religion is from the matriarchs. Okay, here we are. Islam matriarch roots. This is deep. Deep, 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 deep. Deep. It was pre-Mohammedan Junkans who violated the ancient mommy goddess practice in the Sudan, overlaying them with an unreasonable and oppressive patriarch structure later. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. Islam was born 570 AD and founded by Muhammad, said to be white or biracial, who was married to, she was a matriarch that Muhammad was married to, Khadijah. The marriage ensured him with security and status. Muhammad could not read or write, but he learned from listening very well. He was a very handsome man and inspiring to men with his words. Muhammad worked as a shepherd boy, camel driver, and led caravans to Persia, Syria, and Egypt, engaged in various merchant work. Muhammad was very fond of the Levitical Jews. He admired their religion and traditions. Now remember that name Khadijah now. She was one of the he married one of the ancestral mothers. They ain't gonna tell you that. But that gave him the status to, do what he needed to do. And it said he was very fond of the Levitical Jews. He admired their religion and traditions. He learned many things about the Cushian and Jews' religion and created a new religion known today as Islam. Muhammad claimed the angel Gabriel appeared to him and instructed him to create Islam. The patriarch Bible story of Ishmael gave Muhammad confidence. The patriarch Bible story of Ishmael gave Muhammad confidence, influence, and leverage he needed to promote his patriarch political and religious structure and Taif, T-A-I-F. The promoting of Islam put Muhammad's life in jeopardy, which caused him to flee to Tathrib, where he converted many citizens to Islam. Later, he became ruler of the city. The only thing Muhammad altered to create his religion is the reduction in the number of prayers during the day. But his religion is basically Jewish. Islam adopted laws and traditions. However, he kept the traditional rites such as the annual pilgrimage to Kaaba, fast of Ramadan, the shaving of heads, animal sacrifices, the giving of alms, Friday prayer, ritual bathing, taboos against incest. These practices were originally established by matriarchs. Islam began to paramount. Muhammad became fanatical and waged a war on Jews, Levites, and Queen Mother clans were seen as pagan. Most were converted by the fear of his sword. Many were used as slave commerce if they refused to convert. Islamists have waged constant campaigns to oppress and enslave older African traditionalists. Emphasis on Sudan and Algeria, where Africans are still being sold into chattel slavery today. Islam in many parts of Africa still maintain remnants of its ancient matriarchal past. Most Islamists do not separate themselves from mommy or voodoo practitioners. Okay? The ritual of sacrifices in Islam is from the Holy Quran. Origins are from ancient matriarchs. Oh, wow. The Holy Quran origins, what did it say? The ritual of sacrifice is from in Islam from the Holy Quran. Origins are from the ancient matriarchs called Kori or Serez or Korites, who are survivals of the older African matriarchs who had spiritual systems similar to African American hoodoo spiritual practices. Islamic Tagolese often served their ancestors in Allah. Although Muslims have matriarch roots, practice under the mommy deity Al-Uzza or Al-Wazza and Alat, later masculinized to Allah. So Allah was originally Alat, which was a female goddess, or Awaza, or Uzzah or Al Uzzah. That was the original name. Then they masculinized it and changed it to Allah. Beyond Christianity, the other major world religions that also directly sprung out of ancient Egypt, matriarchs, and theosophical ideas were the Muslim religion. The Bible indicates that there is an Egyptian connection in the creation of the Muslim religion among the Arabs. This biblical narrative suggests that Arabs descended from the child of Abraham and his Egyptian maidservant, who was probably an ancestral mother supposedly given to him when he traveled to ancient Egypt. Matriarchs' presence in Asia and India. African indigenous matriarch tribes lived in the Far East in ancient times. There were linguistic and cultural links present in the Asian and Indian culture. Japanese historian Confer states, Kiamfer states, Buddha was an Egyptian priest driven out of Egypt, which is an indication Buddha was a descendant of a matriarch system that were later replaced by the new system of patriarchs adopted by the Egyptians during the birth of the pharaonic order. Buddhas were worshipped as the king of the serpents in the sacred Mamisi birthing temples of ancient Egypt, who were depicted being nursed by a great Naga, Naga, Naga. Wow. In the form of a woman possessing the head of a serpent. It says, I'm going to read it again. Buddhas were worshipped as the king of serpents in the sacred Mamisa, which were birthing temples of ancient Egypt, who were depicted being nursed by a great Naga in the form of a woman possessing the head of a serpent. The Naga deity was worshipped in the Lower Egypt. This is probably a strong reason why Lower and Upper Egypt were in dispute with each other. Buddhism appeared in the 6th century BC. It was popular in the Indian region. The word Buddha is a title believed derived from the African word Obada. Another ancient name for Buddha is Sakesia, meaning savior. On the right arm is an icon African cultural practice. Buddha was known as the ninth avatar, the first emanation and the original phoenix of divine power, the trine to God and wisdom. Buddha mythology can be found in ancient Istanbul and ancient Nubia, being the divine incarnation of the sun. Buddha was spoken of by the Sibyls written in the Bhagavad Gita. It is highly possible that it was the Sibyls, along with the chief priests of Amun Ra, known as Protopapas, gave birth to this Buddha spirit during a sacred initiation. Buddha may have been venerated as a close ancestor known as Bacchus, Dionysus, and Minu. It is important to point out here that many other gods and goddesses in African spirituality were actually, this is deep. Oh, wow. This is deep. It is important to point out here that many of the gods and goddesses in African spirituality were actually ancestors that once lived, ancestors that have passed on and are elevated to godhood through rituals by their descendants. The concept of Buddhism is thousands of years old. It shares the same proponents of the Egypto-Nubian yoga, meditation, karma, reincarnation, ancestors honor, and originated from Hinduism. The Tibetan women attire can be traced back to the Ashanti people in Ghana. There is a modern evidence of an African tribe leaving its culture and fashion among the Buddhist priests of Tibet. These priests wear their outer clothes over their shirts across their shoulder, just as ancient Akan male priests wore theirs, and modern Akan males still wear their clothing in West Africa. Despite the obvious African physical features of the image of Buddha, who would believe in the West that Africans name Obadiah, meaning creator of the day, could be the origin of the name Buddha. Buddhism is said to originate in India among the Sundroid, the Aboriginal population linked to the Sundanese and the Egyptian Hindu gods and Egyptian gods have very strong similarities. I'm going to read that one more time. African physical features of the image of Buddha. Who would believe in the West that African name Obadiah, meaning creator of the day, could be the origin of the name Buddha? Buddhism is said to originate in India among the Sundroid and Aboriginal population linked to the Sundanese and the Egyptians. Hindu gods and Egyptian gods have very strong similarities. Egyptian motifs insinuate there was some contact between India and Egypt during the Indus Valley period. In ancient India, there was a grand Amphi temple to Ceres, Mami, where a Hindu worshipped her in her dual aspect as Raja Pantana. When Hindu soldiers came to Egypt, they recognized they had the same gods as the Egyptians. Wow. That's funny. When Hindu soldiers came to Egypt, they recognized they had the same gods as the Egyptian. Hindu gods such as Shiva, Durga, Krishnas, and Dattatreya assume cultural infusion. However, if one was to inquire the reason for this infusion, the priestess would respond, "We possess the same gods in our blood, and it was their ancestors who brought them to India when they migrated there more than 4,000 years ago." Kali means black. She is also called Mommy, Kali Ma. Mamitu, the creatress, maintained the matrilineal lines. Her worship may have originated from the city of Kalhu in ancient Syria, carried to Malabar, where she was worshipped as Kama Isis. Kali is a twin aspect of Isis. Did y'all know that? Kali Ma is a twin aspect of Isis. Yep. Many cultures were amazed when they arrived in India and discovered all the Paleolithic caves they visited contained drawings of black people who predated the arrival of the Iranian and Muslim tribes. All the mommy goddesses' original African clans were absorbed into Hindu new religion, Brahmanism, and although there are still symbols of the mommy matriarchs, the language of the sacred Vedas, Puranas, and Tantras was originally known by the Black Indies and Botarvar, later perfected by Hindus adopted as their deity. Hindu despised the serpent spirit because it expressed a divine African feminine principle. Hindus despise the serpent spirit because it expressed the divine African feminine principle, especially the rites of the ancient Buddha and Shiva. The Hindu patriarchs tried for centuries to prohibit the worship of the great serpent mother. Both ancient cultures have deep roots in mysticism and emphasis on, so you know I'm on live, right? Have deep roots in mysticism. The Hindu patriarchs tried for centuries to prohibit the worship of the great serpent mother. Both ancient cultures have deep roots in mysticism and emphasizes symbolic expression. The Book of the Dead and the Garuda Purana are both similar and performed at the time of death. Genetic studies have traced racial and ethnicity of the Chinese people to modern tribes. For example, the name of Confucius was Kung Fu Tse, derived from the African god people, Kamafo Tesi. Chinese myths indicate the civilization was founded by a mermaid, Fuzai Nugai, who came from the Lai River. She supposedly taught the Chinese writings based upon yin yang, which expressed the feminine masculine principles, later developed into Feng Shui system of harmony and I Ching divination system. They saying that a mermaid came out of the Lu River. Her name was, the myth now indicate the civilization was founded by a mermaid called Fuzai Nuga, who came from the Li River. She supposedly taught the Chinese writings based upon yin yang, which expressed the feminine masculine principles, later developed into Feng Shui system of harmony and I Ching divination system. The Japanese also claimed the myth to a similar mermaid goddess named Kawa no Kami. Confucius was a black man. He taught a doctrine based on nature, and that nature was responsible for the classification of life. He introduced a patriarchal religion on top of the ancient matriarchs in China. They had matriarchs in China. So Confucius came in and introduced a patriarchal religion on top of the ancient matriarchs in China. Master Kung or Kukeyong Fu Tu, Latinized as Confucius, he was born around 551 BCE in the feudal state of Lu in today's Shandong province of China. He was trying to improve his people's way of life by reforming their feudal matriarch leadership. He preached that destiny was a synonym of nature. That destiny was a synonym of nature and that nature decides one's class in life. Prayer is unhelpful in this regard, but destiny once received could willfully be prevailed upon for wiser choices. It is said he discouraged witchcraft, human sacrifice, claimed to be prevalent in China at the time, and advocated that spirits could be respected but kept at a distance because if you cannot serve man, how do you know to serve spirits? He gave China Confucianism. This is another method patriarchs used to set up their religion. The concept of serving man was introduced to the masses in most of these newfound religions. The spiritual experience is totally removed from the religious structure. The spiritual experience is totally removed from the religious structure. Now, the next thing we're going to read is going to be the indigenous Chinese. I'm going to hold off on that. So, what we read about that, we see that there was a serious heavy matriarch system in all over the world. In the Americas, what they call it, Turtle Island. All through China, there was the indigenous ancestral mothers. There was also in everywhere, Australia, over in Egypt. So they were everywhere. The patriarch took down the mommy goddess and put up their gods and stuff, and that's what the curse is from, and that's why we suffering to this day because of the disrespect and the overthrowing of ISIS and Mama Wata. The Catholics still pray to the black goddess, but they got a lot of us indoctrinated, and it was going on for a long time before our parents they had already got to them and destroyed the honoring of the feminine god, the female goddess or whatever, and what they did and stuff that they did to our ancestral mothers. We paying for it now. And that's why I'm trying to figure out how we can fix this, because we are the Christ consciousness. We are our own savior. Ain't nobody coming to save us. We're going to have to save ourselves and figure this thing out, and stop covering things up and talk about stuff. It's time out for like I said, for the BS. It's time to start having these uncomfortable conversations so we can fix each other and heal. We got to start at home with ourselves. It's no need to have amnesia when people is trying to tell you that you hurt them or tell you the truth. It's time out for acting like you don't know what they're talking about and you're crazy and you don't remember. I mean, people know what they be doing, and they decided before they came here to be that person. And I'm grateful that even though I've been through a lot, and I'm grateful that I don't look like the things that I've been through, but I'm also grateful that I didn't sign up to be that guy. I'm glad I didn't sign up to be the one that is just the chaos, just always causing a lot of discord and confusion and trying to lead and guide people to run the wrong direction. I'm grateful that I chose and signed up to be the one that is connected to Supreme Source. Lord knows, somebody had to be that guy, but I'm glad it's not me. I'm glad. I mean, Lord. I mean, like yesterday was Sunday. uh, and a lot of us, we went in these buildings and paid these tithes and stuff like that. And it's 2023. You would think by now in this age of Aquarius that people will really see the big picture. Like it's time to connect to nature. It's time to go back to Mama Water. It's time to go back to Isis. It's time to go back to the Mother Goddess. It's time to start connecting with your ancestral mothers and fathers. It's not. I'm not reading this for us to be mad with men because we've been here before. We probably was some of these people that was doing some of this bullshit in the past life. No, we are one. We got to start healing and loving each other and figuring out what can we do so that we don't have these wars no more. So that we don't, you know, so that this doesn't happen. So that we can fix this stuff. And the curse can be broken. You feel me? Like we got to go back to the source. We got to go back to the real spiritual system. No matter what they told us that is evil or whatever, we gotta find the truth for ourselves. We gotta find out what's the real, what's working. I'm only doing what I do what work for me. And it ain't all about no materialistic stuff, this matrix fake mother stuff. It's about what's from within. It's about me having my mind and my soul, my spirit balanced and grounded and connected to supreme source and feeling wholeness on the inside. It ain't all about that outer stuff no more. Which once you get everything in alignment, it's going. You don't gotta chase no money or chase no bag. The bag will chase you. You know what I'm saying? Once you get everything in alignment, that ain't nothing because we are the energy sources. We are the currency, the flow, the air, the river, the bank. You know. So I just want to come up here. It's been a while. I want to send out healing and unconditional love. A lot of people are having some tough times now. And the men, I know, we women, we seem to be able to emotionally handle things, but the men, it seems like they really catching it. I mean, it's time to not be in a situation where you letting somebody harm you or nothing like that. But we got to show more love and compassion towards each other and understanding and empathy. Because a lot of times the men are not emotionally as strong as we are. They're not. We can either create heaven on earth or create hell on earth. You know what I'm saying? We know that we are stronger than them when it comes to spiritual things, emotional things, or in a lot of areas, and we can't just throw them away. We gotta heal ourselves and also heal them and forgive and have compassion. I'm saying this because a lot of times that's what I had to do. I we don't know a lot of times unless we really doing our Akasic records and connecting to nature and connecting to the ancestors. We don't know what we might have done in a past life and why are we going through these things and these little tests and trials. Some gonna be big tests and trials, but we got to learn how to get along. We got to learn how to love each other. It's okay. It's okay if somebody say, "Oh, I don't like the black woman," or "I hate it." That's on them. That's on them. You don't have nothing. You don't have to be in a situation around people, whether it's friends or family or relationship. You don't gotta be around people that's it's not safe to be around or that's not helping you or sin or don't mean you no good. But you don't have to have hate in your heart. You can have it's easy to love a friend, but it's harder to love somebody that's a difficult or an enemy or somebody that don't like you. But when you can love somebody that don't like you, that's when you really are like testing yourself. I ain't saying love somebody that don't like you to the point where you open yourself up to danger or you want to be around them or you open yourself up to for them to hurt you or take something from you. But I'm just saying you can love people from a distance. You ain't gotta have You know, you gotta. I mean, we gotta understand. It's some fucked up people out here. Everybody not doing the work. Everybody ain't putting in that work. They afraid of themselves. They're afraid of the dark. They're afraid of what's on the inside of them. If they change up their way of thinking, they feel like they don't have nothing else. You know, I had to look at it from that point of view, because everybody not gonna wake up in this lifetime. Some people gonna it's gonna take they're gonna have to get it another lifetime or something like that. But we don't have to be angry with them. We can show them love. We can show them compassion and understanding. But you have to tell them the truth. You know, I'm gonna give you the truth, and I'm gonna give it to you in a loving, compassionate way. You know, it might sound kind of stern. I'm not trying to purposely harm anybody with my words, but I'm just gonna get. You know, I'm gonna give you the truth. I'm not gonna hide who I am anymore. I'm not gonna put myself in a box about my spiritual beliefs and stuff like that. Like, it is you either you is or you ain't. I mean, I'm not trying to have friends that are not real friends, or people, you know, that's in my face. It's all good, but then when I leave the area, they talking about me behind my back, or they laughing and giggling at my spiritual beliefs and stuff. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. I don't have time for it, and I don't want to put no harm towards anybody, because I'm really connected to nature. I'm connected to the supreme source, and my ancestors. I really do venerate my ancestors. So I'm not trying to be putting nobody in no situation where they come where they, you know, getting fucked up from being disrespectful to the things that I'm connected to source. So I'm connected to the real deal. I know it's the real deal. So I'm not trying to have anybody in harm's way for their ignorance, because even if you ignorant, when you offend the spirits and stuff like that, you can get fucked up. So I'm not even gonna put nobody in that situation where I'm just, once I see that energy, I can't mess it. You ain't serious. Like, we ain't on the same wavelength. You not in my tribe. You not a part of my unconditional love tribe, or my soulmate, which I ain't talking about it ain't no relationship with a intimate man or nothing like that. A soulmate can be a family member. It can be your child, it can be your mama, it can be your daddy, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, or your friend. But I'm not gonna be picking up no kind of weird vibes with somebody I call a friend. No, or somebody I call a lover and all that, or somebody close in my circle. I ain't got time for it. I'm gonna go and tell you the truth. You know, and if you can't take heed, then I have no use for that in my life. I don't have no use for that fake stuff. I don't have no use for it. You know, trying to make somebody happy, trying to say I got a friend or a family member, and it's not genuine. I don't have the energy for it no more. It's just it's stupid. It's just stupid to me. It's energy time wasting. You know, it don't make no sense. Like, why? When I enjoy my company with myself, like, I don't feel like I have to settle, because I love me. I don't mind being alone, because I'm really not even alone. I used to be the type of person where I always had to have this or have somebody around me. I'm not like that anymore. And when you're not like that, that's when people want to be around you, because you enjoy your own company, you know. Not saying that I don't mingle or I don't have people that I socialize with, but I don't want to be dependent on nobody for no, you know, because I want to depend on myself. You know, I don't think I should put that responsibility on somebody else to keep me from being lonely and keep me from feeling it. That's on me to do that for myself. And like I said, it's been a while. I love you guys. I send healing to you, unconditional love, balance, wholeness. I'm up here a long time. And I want everybody to just don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on yourself. Speak the things that you want. Don't give up. Don't go, because we have a lot of healing to do. It's levels to healing. It's levels to unconditional love. It's levels to this stuff. Don't give up on yourself, because you're a beautiful work in progress. Don't ever give up on yourself. Yeah, yeah. Um, I just want to let everybody know. You know, I'm gonna come up here again soon and read it till I finish it, and then I'll be up here doing some bullet points and up here doing some more exciting stuff with the knowledge and everything. I'm just grateful to Big Mama, grateful to Righteous Father Spirit, grateful to the Son, grateful to the daughter. I'm grateful. Just grateful for water, fire, air, earth, and spirit. Grateful for all things. All things. Grateful. So everyone have a great moon day. I'm trying to think, is there anything I didn't talk about? I talked about the full moon and the energies and stuff like that. A little bit about it. And even the full moon in Leo, Leo represents the lioness, the great Sphinx. You know, this great Sphinx was they feminine. It was a woman. They changed it. There was a woman. They changed it and want us to think that it's male, but you say it doesn't matter whether it's a man or woman. Well, yes, it does. It does matter. Not for on no feminist energy, but the truth is the truth. I mean, if you can't handle the truth, then oh well. I mean, you know what I'm saying? This is the age of knowing. This is the age of Aquarius. And it's also, has a lot of Saturn energy, which is Saturn is the strict father, the teacher, the karma, and everything. So everyone have a good moon day. I might be back up here later. I might be back up here another time. I love y'all. Support our organization, My Yacht Symbol of Healing and Unconditional Love. See you guys. And y'all take care.